We're live. Welcome back, your backup plan tribe, to another awesome show. My name is Tina again. I'm here with your backup plan app. I am the creator and the developer of your backup plan, and I'm a best-selling author in the blink of an eye. Does anything ever happen in the blink of an eye? Yeah, you betcha. It sure does. Whether it's getting the cancer word at the doctor's office, just like that, in the blink of an eye, or in a car accident, or a work accident, or an earthquake. It could be anything. A hurricane is in the blink of an eye. A tornado. Any of these items that's why I went into be an emergency preparedness coach. And that's what we help you organize and develop your own backup plan. That being said, we are on all podcast platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, and of course, Pinterest. We talk about real life stories on our show with really amazing people and about their life-changing events in their own lives, where it might have been a tragedy or a trauma or a sickness or an accident or even death. And that, in the blink of an eye, is life-changing. And that's why we're here today. We have a very special guest coming to us today from Dallas, Texas. His name is Donald Mondragon, and he is a doctor, a colonel, an author, and a tough guy. And he's going to bring his heart out to all of us, explaining about words unspoken. Yes. His approach to leaving words unsaid. It's going to be uplifting and amazing. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Talking Taboo with Tina, brought to you by your backup plan. We feature notable celebrities, brilliant authors, and real people with extraordinary stories, accessible across all podcast platforms and our YouTube channel. Our innovative Your Backup Plan app is designed to put your entire life in one place, making it easy to prepare for any unpredictable circumstance. Whether you're a senior, retired, single, or have a family, this app is your organizational lifeline. It's your safety net, taking the painful aftermath out of any tragedy. Imagine having a plan B that ensures your finances are taken care of, even in the worst-case scenario. That's the peace of mind our app offers. Life's uncertainties may be unavoidable, but you can be prepared. We've also created a vibrant Facebook group where we offer free webinars diving deeper into the world of backup planning. Join us to learn how to secure your financial future, connect with like-minded individuals, and gain valuable insights. We focus on the importance of emergency preparedness for any situation: a natural disaster, a divorce, a loss of a loved one, a car accident, work accident, or tragic sickness and disability. We've got you covered. Don't wait until it's too late. Click the link below to join our Facebook group and embark on your backup planning journey with free webinars.
Now back with Skip here. Come on board here, Donald. We call him Skip at our place here. Welcome, Skip, from Dallas, Texas. I would say, why on earth would you be here? Because you're a physician. Nothing ever happens to doctors.
Oh, thank you, Tina. I'm delighted to be back with you, my friend. Nothing ever happens to physicians.
Nothing.
Oh, my goodness. Things happen in all of our lives, as everybody knows. And certainly things have happened in my life. And we will talk a little bit about some of these things. But let's back up a little bit where this idea of words unspoken and perhaps the genesis of what piqued my mind about this and so forth. And as we get into this, I was pondering, and something that occurred to me, Tina, that we hadn't spoken of, that perhaps where it really started and the seed was germinated was when I was 13. My
wow.
father died. And I saw him, my mother had remarried at that point, but my father had come back Korea, a broken man, in and out of the VA hospitals, had mental illness and alcoholism. And he was not the same man that went to war. My mother said that. My Auntie Mary, his older sister who helped raise him, my older cousins. And I didn't see him that much. But the last time I saw him, which was the Christmas time there when I was 13, that would have been 1968. His parting words to me, give me a call sometime, son. And I'd pass that phone thinking, oh, I'd call dad and I'd get busy. And I was a kid. Okay, I'll call him later. I'll call him later. Well, it was mid-February. My mom and my daddy, my stepfather, called me into their room early one morning. And they said, son, we have some bad news to tell you. Your dad is dead.
That changes everything.
That changes everything. And I struggled with that grief for many, many, many years that I didn't have the opportunity to tell my dad one last time, Dad, I love you. I'm thinking about you. And I carried that with me for so long, but I determined at that point that I was never going to miss the opportunity to tell those whom I love that I love them. And I think that was where the seeds were germinated with this idea, don't leave the words unsaid.
Yes.
And in the mid-90s, I heard a man by the name of Dennis Rainey speak about this idea of a tribute, writing a tribute. He spoke, and then he had written a book, and it's this book called The Tribute. Dennis Rainey, Rainey, What Every Parent Longs to Hear. And his idea was we should write something to our parents that they could enjoy, that we could present to them, not when they're on their deathbed, but before that time.
Right.
And it resonated with me in a very profound way.
Because it was still in there, that little tiny bit of grief and regret that you had stuck in your head forever.
Yes. And so I determined I was going to write letters to my parents, and I set about doing that, one to my mom, one to my daddy. And I took a lot of time and effort in preparing to do that, and then crafting those letters and sending them off. And it was my daddy-o that was most touched. He commented on that time and time and time again over those next few years before he passed. And so the profound effect of saying those words, of doing that, and over the years, I've never tried and missed the opportunity of telling my children, telling others, I love you, be it siblings, my mom, be it cousins, be it friends there, that I'm not reticent about telling people I love them, because I don't know if I'm going to see them again.
That's right. You don't know about tomorrow.
Problem with that. So that, I think, was the genesis. This book, and Dennis Rainey, when he spoke, I heard him speak about it, had a profound effect. But then out of that, I had this idea that with me, how can I honor others on special occasions?
Mm-hmm.
So I served in the Army for 26 years. And in the Army, people come and they go. They leave the Army, or they transfer to other posts, what we call a permanent change of station, a PCS move. And I'd have people that were on my staff, and I thought, how can I honor these people? And I began to think about that, and the creative juices would begin to flow. And I thought, oh, I think I can come up with something. And I don't know exactly the first time I did it. but it was with this idea of an acrostic. So taking their name more often than not, sometimes it would be a quality, but their name, and then with the name attributing a quality to each letter of their name. And I have some examples of some that I've done more recently. One was for a lady of an organization I belong to called 100X, and she leads the group that we call them family rooms that we meet weekly with. And her name was Katie Walker. Katie led our family room. Katie was a great listener. She was keyboarder, taught keyboarding, and so forth. And so this is what I came up with, Katie, for Katie Walker. So you kind of get a little idea of what it looks like. So I said, Katie Walker, keyboard guru. A, attentive to the needs of others. T, takes time to listen. She's a great listener. I, is committed to family. She's committed to our family group, but especially committed to her own family. And E, entering a new phase. She was getting ready to leave that role as the family room leader because she wanted to devote more time to her family and their needs. So I wanted to honor Katie. The most recent one I've done was for our pastor who was leaving to take his role at a new church. He had been at our church for 16 and a half years. His name is Terry Reisner, Father Terry Reisner. T, tremendous host. He and his wife would host people, their newcomers to their church or other events, and just amazing, amazing host. So T, tremendous host. E, enjoys studying the scripture. This man is a student of scripture. R, ready. He had this saying, R, ready to afflict the comfortable. He said, but R, ready to comfort the afflicted. Y, yearns to honor our King of Kings. And so I did this in
That's beautiful.
Of our pastor. I've done a few things for my wife. I did this. I've got just this, two more to show you. So I did this for Sherry, and I don't know the lighting that you can see it very well, but it's entitled Sherry, My Writer. And I did this for her before she was ever published as an encouragement for her. Now Sherry is traditionally published. Their one book that came out in 2021. Her next sequel to that comes out in January, and then she has a third book that the Credo Publishing has accepted for publication. That date to be determined when it will be published.
Nice.
And it's entitled Sherry, My Writer. W, writer is she. R, really creative. I, interested in eavesdropping. She didn't necessarily mean to eavesdrop. It's just people can be loud in places she goes to, and she catches parts of those conversations and notes tidbits of that. Oh, that might be interesting for a story. A character, a line, a name. T, true student of her craft. She has worked very, very hard on her writing craft. E, enters into the lives of her characters. I know these characters well because I hear about them all the time.
Yeah, you live it.
Ready for the publication of many books. I've been telling her for a long time, honey, you're not only going to get published, but you're going to publish many, many books. And so 3 that will be published, and I have no doubts there's going to be many more. And the last that I'll show you there as an example, this was what my daughter did for me.
Oh, nice.
On a Father's Day. And this was in 2014. I was recovering from depression. And I was in a very tenuous place because I was still rather depressed. I was beginning that journey of recovery, but I was still in a dark place. And my kid surprised me, took me out to eat. And it was the first time, at a very nice place like that, so we're finishing up and so forth. And I'm getting ready to reach for my wallet like I normally would, when we go out for family dinners. And my son, Chris, my second son, no, son, dad, no, dad, we got this, dad. I'm thinking, oh, well, okay, that's pretty nice. But then they had presented me with acrostics that, I have written for many, many people, but they had written some for me. And so my daughter did this one called Dr. Mondragon. She said, dedicated for D, R, resilient, M, married, O, official, N, nuts, D, daffy, R, respectful, M, A, ambitious, G, gregarious, O, optimal effort, and N, noteworthy.
Ah,
And so that's what my princess, my one daughter, did for me. So those are acrostics and the power of acrostics.
yes. And it's very nice to actually in handwritten, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's beautiful. You can
It
hang
makes
it.
it very personal, and I enjoy doing that, crafting that, creating that. I did a little online challenge and worked with a man and helping him prepare ones. He was working on that for his father. And so he did that. And he also created one for a boss that was retiring. I was so proud of him. Steve did a great job with those. He showed me what he was working, what he had done. It's like, wow. I said, man, you are an acrostic guru, dude.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I
So,
guess you could actually get really good at it too once you do a few.
yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's kind of
beautiful.
what this is what I call my signature acrostic method of writing a tribute. And
That's
I enjoy.
beautiful. That really is beautiful, Skip. Would you like me to read your paragraph that you wrote?
Now let's transfer perhaps to a little weightier matter of not leaving words unsaid.
So, so Skip wrote this. Don't die with the words unsaid. Creating a tribute ensures you say what's most important to someone you love before with you die or they die. I've stood at far too many bedsides of dying patients, only to see, hear, and I feel the regrets of their families. When there is a still a need to for forgiveness, reconciliation, affirmation, or appreciation and love, the pain is profound. It's hard enough to deal with the immensity of death without having to add to the regret of words unsaid. When I had a patient with a terminal illness, I'd tell them, you have a gift. You have time to say those things that need to be said. Likewise, when I had a dying patient in the hospital, I'd advise their families, you've received a gift of time to say those things that need to be said. Don't squander it. It was beautiful to see the patients and families who needed this advice and had no unfinished business when death came. It was tragic in the case of those who disregarded my advice. Writing a tribute allows you to say those words long before the deathbed. That's so beautiful. That's like almost like a poem.
No, thank you, Tina. Yes. Oh, don't die with the words unsaid. Don't leave those words unsaid. And all too true, all too sad, but I've seen it hundreds of times. I've been at many, many, many deathbeds.
And why do you think they don't?
I think it's a variety of reasons. I think it's in part denial. I think it's in part, so denial would be one, might be anger, it might be bitterness, it might be ego and pride. it could just be that sense of reticence, emotions and hurt and estrangement. And some people, it's their family dynamics. Well, we don't talk about things like this, or we don't say things. It oftentimes it's just petty things
Yes.
that they're unwilling to get over. You did such and such, 20 years ago, and now I'm holding that against you. It's like, oh my word, life is short. Get over it. Why are you even worried about that?
Wasting a breath about that.
But there's so many reasons, but I think those are some of the main reasons I see in talking with people and advising them and trying to encourage them. Please have that talk, have that dialogue, seek to work through this, because I don't want you to be left with this regret, left with this additional burden after this person passes. I don't want that person taking their last breath of life not having expressed to their family, I love you, I appreciate you, thank you for this. This is what you mean to me. And yet I've seen it time and time and time again.
I just don't know why it's so hard to say a few words like that.
It doesn't make any sense.
No, not for those of us that find it easy to discuss things like that. And I realize that some people have that difficultness to discuss emotions and feelings. That's probably one of the barriers, but
right. And certainly for men, I think it can be harder. And part of that is the way we've been raised. We oftentimes don't know how to express our emotions very well. In fact, there's a term that's been coined for that, normative male alexithymia.
oh wow.
Literally means feelings without words. Because we've been raised to
shut it down, not say anything.
Don't be a crybaby. Be a man. Don't be a sissy. And so if you're raised in that kind of a culture, and if you haven't seen role models who have shown you how to properly express your feelings, to be willing to express, I feel confused. I feel sad. I feel rejected. I feel confused. This broad array of emotions that perhaps that if you don't have role models that do that, or a role model in a man that can openly shed tears, that as a man, then it can be very difficult to sometimes open up and share some things.
Yes.
And so there's a variety of reasons that things happen. But I think when things get said, when at least you start that dialogue and so forth, that it makes for a much better passing, a much easier time of grief, because that grieving process is hard no matter what. Under the best of circumstances, grief is hard.
Yeah.
But how can you seek to optimize that, if there's any way you can, to ease that burden? And certainly I think that's one of the ways, that when you've left nothing unsaid, when you've done all you can, you've said everything that needs to be said, And that person, then when they do die, that, their hearts are lighter, your hearts, their family's hearts are lighter, and it's palpable in that room.
Yeah.
There is such a difference in if you will, the spirit of that room versus the dying patient and the dead patient, and what that family is feeling when you're in that room after that patient dies, when there's things that haven't been said.
Yes.
It's palpable.
Do you think, Skip, that someone dying in a bed will have a more difficult time because they didn't do these kinds of things at the end?
Oh, I have no doubt. I think it more than likely makes it harder to control pain, to keep them comfortable. I think that's one of the things. We certainly know that just due to the neurobiology, the way we are wired as humans, when relationships are out of whack, when we are not properly connected to others, that our pain threshold is lower. That there are so many things that happen when we are disconnected from others. Higher rates of anxiety, higher rates of depression, higher rates, that pain threshold being lower, so we experience more pain, and it's harder to control the pain. We're not as peaceful. We don't sleep as well. I mean, the list can go on and on, because relationships are not where they need to be. We are meant for connection. We
Right.
are created for connection. God is a relational being. God created us for relationship, and we are created to have relationship with one another. That's the way we are wired. And so when those relationships are disrupted, it has so many deleterious effects on our being and our health and well-being that you can't separate body, soul, and spirit. They
Right.
all work in sync. And so if one part is messed up in those relationships, it's going to impact all these other parts.
As well as inflammation and pain, and just it goes everywhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And those that are left behind that also haven't done their due diligence as well.
Yes.
So what are they left with this regret and the grief on top of it?
Yes. Yes. And regret is a horrible thing, because you're just looking back. You're looking back. You're looking back. With the would-haves, could-haves, and should-haves.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about would-haves, could-haves, and should-haves.
And it's so hard to get out of your head. Like it's like cemented in there.
Yes.
And I always say it takes up a parking spot in your head that you'd like to have the car drive away, but it doesn't.
All that mental space and energy, and it just, oh, yes.
Yes. Because grief is tough all by its own self. You don't need to have people that aren't prepared and that crap left on yourself, as well as things that you didn't say or they didn't say or didn't do.
Right. Because then you're also, because as you well know, and the things that you do, Tina, then all the practical things now that you have to deal with after somebody has died. Now you're thinking, oh, okay, now that body has to be taken to the morgue, and now there's decisions to be made. Okay, was it already decided or not? Are they going to be cremated, or are they going to be buried? And if they're going to be buried, if it wasn't previously decided, now the people that have pre-planned, it's so much easier. Okay,
Right.
there's a casket already picked out, and you know the funeral home, the casket, what kind of funeral service they're going to have, who's going to perform the funeral service, and so on and so forth. But otherwise, now a family in the midst of grief, when their minds are in a fog, now they're just these things. They're having to go figure out, if it wasn't pre-planned, what funeral,
What did they want?
what kind of casket, what kind of funeral service, who's going to do the funeral service, what kind of music, the obituary, etc., etc., etc. And of course, the funeral planners, you would really want the best, wouldn't you? We have this and we have this, but here's our best model. And don't you think your loved one would really deserve the Cadillac model of things that's probably 2 to 3 times as expensive as the other, that would more than suffice? I've told my wife, if you could bury me in a burlap bag, that would suffice, but of course the VA won't allow that to be buried in their cemetery. So I will have to be in some kind of casket.
Yeah. It's just crazy just to even think about it, isn't it, too?
Right. So that idea, now people with that, and then all this stuff about settling the affairs, it's hard enough if everything's in order, but if things aren't in order, oh my word, now it's just a horrible mess. Having the death notification. Okay, we got to have the death certificate, and now we got to notify the bank and the credit cards, and
If you know.
and the life insurance, and down the line, and just trying to find that is
A job in itself.
right. So,
And what happens to
the
your
family
brain?
dynamics. Who's going to
Well,
get
that on top of it, too, right?
And even if there's a will, oftentimes that's contested, as you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Think about that.
Just to cause more pain and problems. What happens to their brains? I mean, what happened, in a shock situation? It just shuts down.
Yeah, you can't think. It's like, and that's why I really appreciate the military, because they assign a liaison to help a spouse go through all of this when somebody dies.
Because it's so helpful to do that.
Yeah, you can't think coherently.
No, I always say it's like your brain just flies out of your head, and you can actually see it in the air, and you're trying to grab it, and it's like, I need that to think. I need to pull it back in. I don't know what happens. Grief, just any sort of shock, it's just like bang-o, like you're just done.
Yeah. So to get back to what we were talking about here, the don't die with the words unsaid. And now is, I think, a great time as we move into Thanksgiving for those of us in the U.S., and certainly into the Christmas season, that it's more universal, a time to think, because families will be gathering. And now is a time to be thinking about that. Don't let that pettiness, don't let those things, and if there's reconciliation that needs to be done, be thinking about that. How can I begin to work towards that reconciliation? How can I begin to seek to open up those channels? How can I begin to mend relationships? Or how can I begin to, even if it's a good relationship, I want to express to that person. Maybe it's an aged parent. Maybe it's a grandparent. Maybe it's an aunt or uncle that was influential in your life. Maybe it was somebody else, but you want to express those things because things can happen and you may not have another opportunity. I thought I'd have another opportunity to tell my dad I love him. Nope.
Yeah.
The last conversation I had with my dad, I would not speak to my dad again. And so you never know.
Very true.
Never know in regards to that. And in regards to my daddy-o, I remember because of his circumstances, he had a hemorrhagic bleed, an aneurysmal bleed, and then had it began to change his personality some. He had seizures from that and had progressive decline after that over the next few years because he was comatose actually for 6 weeks after that first major bleed. And then over the next 2 years declined. But I remember the last coherent conversation I had with him. And after that is what every conversation until he died, it was basically he was back to where we were kids.
Oh.
And, it wasn't oriented, to what was going on. It was there, but I remember that last coherent conversation with him, and I will treasure that.
Yes.
And I will treasure that greatly because that was a gift. And I remember that, but I didn't leave, as I said, I didn't leave any words unsaid with my daddy.
And it's difficult with Alzheimer's and dementia too, because you have people that are still there, but they're not there.
They're there, but they're not there. That is a slow death for everyone.
Yeah.
For the person, because they know their faculties are going. For those that love them, it is slow death and grief. That is grief upon grief as they watch that process unfold. It is hard, and yeah, that's very hard.
So it would be almost beneficial when you do see it kind of starting to get in there and get it done before.
I would recommend that while the person can still really appreciate those words and understand that, because as that disease progresses, you don't know how much they understand. There'll be flashes at individuals when they're a little bit more coherent and understand, but then they won't remember 5 minutes later because they'll be asking you the same question. Are we going to that? Or did you call so-and-so? Or why are we here? The same question over and over. They can't remember what you just talked about there. They might remember something that happened 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Or they were, a young child, but they can't remember what you just talked about, what they just did, what they just ate. Are we going to eat? No, you just ate.
Yeah.
Are we going to talk? Are you going to call so-and-so? No, Mom. No, we just talked with them. They're gone now. And so, yes, I would strongly recommend if somebody has dementia, whatever the cause, certainly Alzheimer, being that most common cause, but there's other causes of dementia, that you think about doing this in the early stages where they can appreciate it more, and that that they understand it.
Yes.
More cognizant of what's going on, because as that disease progresses, you don't know how much they're understanding and that they're remembering. At least in the earlier stages, they can appreciate that and they can remember that more before those things fade. And so, yes, absolutely. I think something like this, or a letter that you write out in tribute there, and that you read at a family gathering to somebody like that, be it a Christmas gathering, a Thanksgiving gathering, a birthday gathering, a family party, something would be such a profound gift that it will change your life, it will change their life, and it will change
The dynamics.
the person that is there. Because
Yeah.
it's a gift that is given from here.
Hmm.
Don't die with the words unsaid.
Absolutely. It's almost like we could do it, encompass it into every Thanksgiving and have each person do one. That would actually sound like a really good cultural event that you could add to Thanksgiving,
Wouldn't that be amazing?
and even have the little kids writing what they think too. It could be really, I don't know, I think it could be really uplifting and grateful for the year.
Yes.
I think it would be wonderful. So there's a tip for somebody if they would like to start this kind of ritual that they would do at Thanksgiving. Each person takes a piece of paper and writes down, just like Skip said, these words that have never been spoken, perhaps. And even from little tiny kids, it would be so sweet.
Wouldn't that be? Those would be treasured mementos.
Yeah. And you could hang them on the wall or give them as gifts, and especially during this time. What kind of experience, before I forget to let everybody, make sure you like, share, and subscribe down there below, right in the corner before we move on, because we love you here. And you can hear more of our shows that come up each and every week, just like Skip with our wonderful guest today. Skip, what did you find in dealing with people? Did they honestly think you were speaking a foreign language when you discussed this with them, do you think? Or did they know what you were
When I discuss in terms of
You have a chance now. You're given a gift
people
to be
understood
able to.
when I would talk about it in terms of this. If there's any unfinished business, that's usually the verbiage that I would use. If you have any unfinished business, please take this opportunity to deal with that, with your father, with your mother, with your grandpa, your grandma,
The
with your
neighbor.
brother, with whomever, please, with your husband, with your wife, please take this opportunity with mom, with dad, to deal with this. And likewise with that person, with their family. If you have any unfinished business, I urge you, please take this opportunity.
And I think, Skip, you've been on our show before, and you really went into more depth about spending time in the national wrestling area. I think that was probably a strength that you had to find when you were in depression. And I think it pulled you out of it, didn't it, Skip, from our previous videos?
In terms of what exactly the wrestling helped me to
Build the strength to overcome depression.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. Wrestling is so tough. That we have a saying that wrestling, life will knock you on your back, and wrestling teaches you to get up off your back. Wrestling is demanding, unlike any other sport, and requires so much of you that it teaches you resilience. It teaches you to push yourself, teaches you to get back up. And I think those were some of the life lessons that I learned with wrestling, is that persistence counts, determination counts. I was not the most athletic gifted by any means. Any means. I didn't know how to throw a ball. I didn't know how to catch a ball. I didn't know how to kick a ball. I didn't know how to run or jump, or I was weak and so forth, and failed at any sport miserably. I failed at tetherball.
Yeah.
When I discovered wrestling, it was the first time I ever felt like I could do something perhaps and do it well in regards to a sport, and fell in love with wrestling. And so the lessons that wrestling taught me were that even though I was not that fast kid, was not that strong kid, was not that coordinated kid, that with consistent hard work, I eclipsed so many others. And so it taught me those lessons, just that persistence, that consistency, just keep working at that. And so I knew I was going to have to draw upon that to get myself out of that deep, dark hole. It was going to be required. And there were times I'd sit on the edge of the bed, tears streaming down my face, talking to my sweetheart, Sherry, and saying, honey, it's not always going to be like this. I am going to get better. I am going to get better. But it was painful.
It's hard. Very hard. It's a big, deep hole, and you seem like you go up the ladder a couple steps and then you fall back down again. And
2 steps
again.
forward, 1 back. 2 steps forward, 1 back, or 2 back and 1 forward. It was hard and painful. A long, rocky road. Of course, the last time one of the last times I competed, let me get this straight, won the National Veterans Championship with my son Joey helping me compete. He was my coach, my trainer, my training partner, and we won this National Veterans Championship. And the next year was a national runner-up. So I have wonderful memories with wrestling, and it's taught me so much.
And your book too. Do you have
book,
it?
yes, I do have a copy of my book entitled "Wrestling Depression is Not for Wimps: Lessons Learned from an Amateur Wrestler's Fight to Triumph Over Depression."
Absolutely. I wanted you to. It's a great gift over this holiday if you know anybody that is going through this wonderful journey that some of us have to endure. But
Yes.
I'm sure it would even be helpful for those that are struggling with grief, because it creates some sort of depression sometimes too.
Absolutely, because there are practical things in here to not just deal with depression, but then how to help maintain your health and wellness. It's short, easy to read chapters with lots of practical tips.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I'll have his link down below for that. So make sure it's in the description box for you guys to reach out and know where to find Skip, as well as his book. Wow, I can't believe the time's already done. Do you have any final messages you'd like to say to the listener, Skip?
I would like to leave our listeners with a prescription, Tina. And I have written this prescription for thousands upon thousands of patients. And I would tell them with this prescription, this medication has no bad side effects. This medication has no drug-to-drug interactions, and you cannot overdose on this medication. Proverbs 17:22 says, a merry heart doeth good like a medicine.
That's beautiful.
Dr. Skip Mondragon's prescription for you today is to laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh some more. And each and every day, you take a liberal dose of this medication. It's good for you.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I know it is good for you because it sure helps you come out of the doldrums when you're down in that dark space.
Yes, indeed.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Skip, for coming on again today to perhaps just change one thing that we heard today. That's always my goal, to have somebody hear it perhaps differently, perhaps something they'll start in their Thanksgiving portion of their event, or perhaps Mother's Day, Father's Day, whatever it looks like, even during the holidays. What a beautiful gift
Yes.
it can be from your heart that doesn't necessarily cost anything. Even you could use crayons to write it out. That would be beautiful too. Yeah. So thank you, Skip, for coming on. I appreciate it. And your words of wisdom, to say them again, we can't say them enough. Thank you.
You're welcome, Tina.
And everybody, listeners, as you know, we always end our show with, we have some great new shows coming out as well. We are not Superman, even though that we think we are. Nothing is going to happen to us. Famous last words. What could happen to us? Well, it's far from the truth, because something will happen to us. We just don't know when and what, but it will. So we look at the last 5 years in the world around us, with the shootings in the schools and the streets, work accidents, car accidents, overdoses, the pandemic, not to mention the crazy wars and the natural disasters and wildfires and floods and hurricanes around the world. Don't forget to smash that like button down below for us. Make sure that you, perhaps if you're still with us to the end, let us know when you're going to do your special tribute to someone that you love and care about. And as you know, in the end of our shows, we always talk about, if you were thinking of that special someone right now watching this show, and you haven't had the chance to say, I love you, or how are you doing? And we're thinking about you. Reach out and do that, because you don't know what tomorrow will bring. And that being said, I'm so glad we had this time together just to have a laugh or sing a song. Seems we just get started, and before you know it, comes a time we have to say so long. Beautiful words from Carol Burnett. So thank you. Mike Tyson says, everyone has a plan till you get punched in the mouth. Don't forget that. Famous last words. Stay safe, everybody, and be kind. Till next time. Bye.